What would you do if the person you married wasn't who they claimed to be? In a story of betrayal, scandal, and ultimate redemption, Jenny Steele uncovers shocking secrets that could destroy her life and her family's legacy. But this isn't just a love story. It's a battle against a ruthless enemy who will stop at nothing to see her fall. And just when you think the truth is revealed, another twist turns everything upside down. Can Jenny reclaim her power and clear her name before it's too late? Stay tuned, because this tale is about to take you on a roller coaster ride of emotions, drama, and triumph. The bustling coffee shop on Main Street was alive with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft hum of conversation. At a table near the window, Jenny Steele adjusted her designer handbag on the chair beside her, glancing at her watch. Another blind date set up by her relentless aunt. Another mundane encounter with yet another overconfident, underachieving man. Peter Smith arrived right on time, his casual attire and unkempt hair setting him apart from the polished professionals she usually met. With a grin that seemed both nervous and smug, he slid into the seat across from her. "You're the blind date introduced by Mrs. Zack, right?" Jenny began, her tone laced with faint disinterest. "I heard you've been on 8 blind dates already." Peter chuckled, his confidence unwavering. Yeah, you're Miss Jenny Steele, right?" Jenny raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Mr. Peter Smith? Your picture doesn't quite look like you." Peter leaned back, his grin turning sheepish. "You can tell, huh? Well, let's cut to the chase. With my status, I don't lack women. You must be after my money." Jenny blinked, taken aback by his boldness. "Mr. Smith, you're really ordinary yet so confident. You haven't even bought a house in Torland yet." Peter shrugged. "Not yet, but after we get married, if there's a need, I'll consider it." Jenny's laugh was sharp and incredulous. "After we marry, I'll consider moving to Mars if there's a need," she retorted. "Are you looking for a wife or a maid?" "Aren't they the same?" Peter replied, unfazed. "Oh, and by the way, I just bought a house. $3,000 a month mortgage. You'll have to help me pay it off." Jenny stared at him, her disbelief morphing into irritation. "Let me get this straight. If I marry you, I'd not only have to support your parents, raise the kids, and cook 3 meals a day, but also help pay off your mortgage. You're not looking for a wife, you're looking for charity." The encounter had turned into a verbal duel, with neither side giving an inch. Jenny's sharp tongue and Peter's blunt demeanor clashed like lightning against steel. "You know what?" Jenny said, standing up. "You're not even worth this Chanel dress I'm wearing." As she turned to leave, Peter smirked. "Well, Miss Steele, with all due respect, you deserve to stay single with that attitude." Jenny paused, glancing over her shoulder. "White is just a number. Relationships are about mutual respect and effort, not one-sided charity." "I couldn't agree more," came a voice from the next table. Warren Joan, impeccably dressed in a crisp navy suit, had been quietly sipping his coffee while overhearing their heated exchange. His piercing gaze met Jenny's, and a faint smile played on his lips. "Miss Steele, I'm Warren Joan. This is my resume," he said, sliding a business card across the table. "I heard what you said just now, and I quite agree with your views on marriage." Jenny studied the card for a moment, then her expression softened. "Well, Mr. Joan, you're the first person to make sense all day." Before they could delve further into their conversation, Jenny's phone buzzed. Her cousin's frantic voice spilled out. "Jenny, Mr. Peter Smith is furious. If you don't apologize, he says he'll never give you another chance." Jenny stifled a laugh. Who needs his chance? She hung up and turned to Warren. "So, Mr. Joan, what brings you to this circus of blind dates?" Warren's gaze didn't waver. "I have my reasons. Perhaps we can discuss them over coffee tomorrow." Before Jenny could reply, Peter, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke up. Why waste time? Let's make this quick. How about a contract marriage? It's just what we both need. Tomorrow 2 p.m., City Hall. Jenny hesitated, stunned by the audacity. A contract marriage? You're serious? Dead serious, Peter replied. Happy cooperation. See you at City Hall. Jenny glanced at Warren, then back at Peter. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face before she nodded. Fine. Tomorrow at 2. As Peter walked away, Warren chuckled softly. Miss Steele, you never cease to surprise. City Hall was unusually quiet the following afternoon. The faint echo of footsteps and the occasional rustling of papers filled the sterile space. Jenny Steele arrived precisely at 2 p.m., her impeccable sense of timing matched only by her sharp outfit, a tailored beige blazer and pencil skirt that exuded professionalism and independence. She was determined to treat this arrangement as a mere business transaction. Peter Smith, clad in a simple button-up shirt and slacks, was already waiting near the registrar's office. His unassuming demeanor seemed oddly confident for someone proposing such a bizarre arrangement. Jenny approached with her signature stride, calm, composed, and intimidatingly graceful. Well, Mr. Smith, here we are, ready to sign your life away. Peter smirked. You make it sound so dramatic. It's just paperwork. Jenny couldn't help but laugh, her skepticism shining through. And why, pray tell, would a man like you, ordinary, broke, and clearly lacking ambition, want to tie yourself down with a contract marriage? Peter didn't flinch at her pointed words. Instead, he met her gaze directly. Because I don't believe in love, he replied simply. This is practical. We help each other, avoid the usual nonsense, and go our separate ways when it's over. Jenny arched a brow. Avoid the nonsense, huh? And what exactly do you bring to this arrangement? Peter's grin widened. I'll keep things simple, no drama, no expectations beyond the contract. And when this is done, I won't ask for a dime from you. Before she could respond, the clerk called their names, signaling it was time to proceed. Jenny hesitated for a moment, glancing down at the contract in her hand. It was clear and straightforward, outlining the terms of their unconventional agreement. 1. The marriage would last 1 year, after which either party could end it with no strings attached. 2. No romantic obligations. 3. Joint appearances at social events when required. 4. Privacy respected. No interference in each other's lives. She took a deep breath, her voice steady. Fine, let's do this. The ceremony was over in minutes. A quick exchange of vows, signatures on the dotted line, and a stamp of approval from the registrar marked the beginning of their contract marriage. Peter walked Jenny to the entrance, his demeanor casual. Well, Mrs. Smith, where to now? Jenny rolled her eyes. Don't get used to calling me that. I'm still Jenny Steele everywhere else. Fair enough, Peter said, adjusting the strap of his worn-out watch. Now, let's get something straight. I'm not moving into your fancy apartment, and I don't expect you to come slumming it in mine. Jenny crossed her arms. Good, because sharing living space wasn't part of the deal. As they stood there, an elegant black car pulled up to the curb, and the driver stepped out, holding the door open for Jenny. She turned to Peter. This is where we part ways for now. See you at the next scheduled appearance. Before Peter could respond, the sleek car sped off, leaving him standing on the sidewalk. A faint smile tugged at his lips as he muttered to himself, You're even feistier than I thought. Later that evening, Peter returned to his modest apartment, his mind still lingering on the events of the day. With a sigh, he opened his closet and pulled out a simple black suit. Inside the jacket pocket was a card embossed with gold lettering, Warren Enterprises. CEO, Peter Warren Joan. As he stared at the card, his lips curved into a sly grin. "Well, Mrs. Steele, let's see how long it takes for you to figure out who I really am." The next morning, Jenny sat in her spacious office at Steele Media Group, going over a stack of marketing proposals. Her assistant entered, placing a steaming cup of coffee on her desk. "Miss Steele, there's a gentleman here asking to meet you," the assistant said hesitantly. Jenny barely looked up. "Who is it? I'm not in the mood for any surprises today." The assistant's voice softened. "He says it's Mr. Smith, your husband." Jenny's pen froze mid-signature. Her head snapped up. "Husband? He came here?" "Yes, ma'am. He's waiting in the lobby." Suppressing a groan, Jenny stood and smoothed her blazer. "Fine, let's see what he wants." When she reached the lobby, there he was, Peter, looking perfectly at ease in his casual attire. The stark contrast between his relaxed demeanor and the marble and glass surroundings of her corporate empire couldn't have been more pronounced. Jenny strode toward him. "Peter, what are you doing here?" "Good morning, Mrs. Steele," he said with a grin, deliberately using her married name. "I thought we should go over our schedule. You know, public appearances, a few ground rules, contract stuff." Jenny sighed. "You couldn't have called or emailed?" Peter shrugged. "I'm old school. Face-to-face feels more productive." "Fine," she replied sharply. "Let's make this quick." They retreated to her private office, where Peter couldn't help but whistle at the grand view of the city from her floor-to-ceiling windows. "Impressive," he said. "You've done well for yourself." Jenny didn't bother acknowledging the compliment. "Spit it out, Peter. What's your agenda?" He leaned forward, his tone serious. "We need to attend a charity gala this weekend. It's a formal event. Since we're supposed to be a couple, we need to make it look convincing." Jenny arched a brow. "A charity gala? Let me guess. You got us invited through some construction site connection?" Peter's grin returned, this time mischievous. "You'll find out. Just be ready by 7 p.m. on Saturday. I'll pick you up." Jenny scoffed. "I'll meet you there. And don't embarrass me." Saturday evening arrived, and Jenny found herself slipping into a fitted midnight blue gown that hugged her figure perfectly. Her hair was styled into an elegant updo, and her diamond earrings sparkled as she inspected herself in the mirror. She arrived at the gala fashionably late, stepping out of her car and into the dazzling world of glittering chandeliers and champagne flutes. To her surprise, Peter was already inside, chatting with a group of sharply dressed individuals who didn't look like they belonged anywhere near a construction site. Jenny approached cautiously. "Peter, what's going on?" Jenny blinked in confusion. "Projects?" She glanced at Peter, her suspicion growing. "Peter, who are you really?" He smiled, his voice steady and composed. "I told you, Jenny. I'm Peter Smith, your husband." But something in his eyes hinted at much more, and Jenny couldn't shake the feeling that her ordinary broke husband wasn't what he seemed. The grand ballroom glittered with opulence, the soft hum of a live orchestra filling the air. Jenny followed Peter as he smoothly navigated the room, greeting influential guests with a familiarity that unnerved her. Every handshake and casual laugh hinted at a deeper connection, one that contradicted everything she thought she knew about him. Jenny leaned in as they walked. "Peter, this doesn't add up. Who are these people? And why do they act like you're someone important?" He turned his head slightly, his expression a picture of calm confidence. "Relax, Jenny. I told you, I'm just a man with connections." Before she could respond, a woman in a stunning emerald gown approached, her arms outstretched. "Peter, it's been too long," she exclaimed, pulling him into a warm embrace. Her tone was bright, her demeanor casual, but Jenny noticed her eyes flickering toward her with curiosity. "Miss Steele, "Meet Olivia Hart," Peter said, his voice even. "She's the owner of the Hart Foundation, the one hosting tonight's event." Jenny nodded politely, her mind racing. How does he know the event host personally? "And you must be Peter's lovely wife," Olivia said, her voice honey-sweet. "He's spoken highly of you." Jenny blinked, caught off guard. "He's spoken about me?" She forced a smile. "Well, Peter has always been full of surprises." Olivia laughed, the sound light and musical. "Indeed he is. He's been such a vital supporter of our work, always so generous." Jenny's heart skipped a beat. Generous? With what money? As Olivia moved on to greet other guests, Jenny turned to Peter, her voice sharp. "Generous? Care to explain that?" Peter smirked, offering her a glass of champagne from a passing tray. "Relax, it's all for a good cause." Jenny took the glass but didn't sip. "You're hiding something, and I don't like being left in the dark." Peter's smile softened, and for a brief moment, something genuine flickered in his eyes. "Patience, Jenny. All will be revealed in time." The evening continued with a lavish dinner, during which Peter was seated at the head table beside Olivia and several other high-profile guests. Jenny, feeling like an outsider, observed him from across the room. The way he carried himself, the confidence, the charm, the effortless way he commanded attention, made her question everything. "Ms. Steele," a voice interrupted her thoughts. A waiter handed her a folded note. "From Mr. Smith." She opened it cautiously. The neatly written words made her frown. "Meet me on the balcony in 10 minutes. Intrigued and slightly annoyed, Jenny excused herself and made her way to the balcony. The cool night air greeted her as she stepped outside, the city lights twinkling below. Peter was leaning casually against the railing, his tuxedo jacket unbuttoned, his tie slightly loosened. "You summoned me?" Jenny asked, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Peter turned, his expression unreadable. "I figured you'd want answers." "About time," she replied, crossing her arms. "Start talking." Peter hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "Jenny, I'm not the man you think I am." She raised an eyebrow. "Clearly." He chuckled softly. "What I mean is, this whole broke construction worker thing. It's a front." Jenny's eyes widened. "A front? For what?" Peter met her gaze, his tone serious now. "I'm Peter Warren Joan, Chief Executive Officer of Warren Enterprises, and this," he gestured to the gala behind them, "is a world I know very well." For a moment, Jenny was speechless. The man she thought was an ordinary, unambitious nobody had just revealed himself to be one of the most powerful men in the city. She narrowed her eyes. Why the act? Why pretend to be someone you're not? Peter's gaze softened, and a hint of vulnerability crept into his voice. "Because I needed to find someone who wasn't after my money or my status. Someone real. And that's exactly what you are, Jenny. Real." Jenny stared at him, her emotions swirling. Confusion, anger, intrigue. "So, what now?" Peter's lips curled into a faint smile. "Now, we see where this takes us." Jenny stared at Peter, her emotions whirling like a storm. The cool night air on the balcony was a stark contrast to the fiery indignation rising in her chest. "Let me get this straight," she began, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and anger. "You lied about everything? About who you are? Your background? Your entire life?" Peter held her gaze, his calm demeanor faltering for the first time. "Yes, I lied," he admitted, his voice soft but steady. "But not without reason." Jenny crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. "Oh, I can't wait to hear this reason. Did you think it would be funny to play the part of a broke construction worker just to see how people treated you?" Peter stepped closer, his tone growing earnest. It's not like that. My life, my real life, is surrounded by people who see me as a paycheck or an opportunity. Everyone is trying to gain something. I wanted to know if I could find someone who didn't care about any of that. Jenny scoffed. And you thought the best way to do that was by tricking me into a fake marriage? It's not fake, Peter countered quickly. We signed the contract. You agreed to this marriage. I just didn't tell you everything. Peter hesitated, then turned to her. There's a problem at Warren Enterprises. Someone leaked a confidential merger proposal to the press. Jenny frowned. And what does that have to do with me? Everything, Peter said, his eyes sharp. The leak mentioned our marriage as a reason for potential instability in the company. They're questioning whether I can focus on my work while being tied to someone like you. Her eyes widened. Someone like me? Peter raised a hand to calm her. I don't mean it like that, but they've painted you as a distraction, a gold digger. Jenny's face burned with indignation. Unbelievable! I didn't ask for any of this. If anyone's at fault, it's you for dragging me into your mess. Peter sighed. I know, and I'm going to fix it, but I need your help. Jenny laughed bitterly. Help? You want my help after lying to me about who you are and putting me in the middle of a corporate scandal? Yes, Peter said firmly, because whether you like it or not, we're in this together now. The press is going to scrutinize every move we make. If we don't look like a real couple, united, happy, this will only get worse. Jenny took a step back, her head spinning. The idea of pretending to be in love with Peter, the man who had just shattered her trust, was almost unbearable. But a part of her couldn't ignore the fire in his eyes, the determination that told her he wasn't going to give up easily. What do you need me to do? She asked reluctantly. Peter's expression softened, and he reached for her hand. Stay by my side. Attend public appearances with me. Show the world that we're a team. Jenny pulled her hand away. You're asking a lot, Peter. You've already lied to me. How do I know you won't do it again? You don't, he admitted, but I'm asking you to trust me, just this once. Before Jenny could respond, the sound of a camera shutter echoed from the shadows of the balcony. Both turned sharply, catching a figure darting away into the crowd inside. Who was that? Jenny demanded. Peter's jaw clenched. A reporter, no doubt. Jenny felt a sinking feeling in her chest. Great. Now this is going to be plastered all over the headlines tomorrow. Peter's voice was low and serious. Then we need to get ahead of it. Are you ready to face this with me? Jenny hesitated, her mind torn between anger and the strange pull of curiosity. Could she trust him? Did she even have a choice? The following morning, the tabloids exploded with scandalous headlines. CEO's secret marriage. Is this the end of Warren Enterprises? From rags to riches, the Cinderella bride or gold digger? Warren Jones' mysterious wife sparks controversy. Jenny tossed her phone onto the kitchen counter, her frustration bubbling over. Every article dissected her past, her career, and her supposed motives for marrying Peter. The pictures from the gala were front and center, one of her standing beside Peter, her expression tense, and another of them on the balcony, caught mid-conversation. The headlines painted her as a manipulative opportunist who'd trapped a wealthy CEO. Peter entered her apartment, dressed in a sharp suit that screamed power. He held a newspaper in one hand and 2 coffees in the other. I assume you've seen the headlines? He said calmly. Jenny glared at him. What was your first clue? The death glare I gave you when you walked in? Peter set the coffees on the counter. I told you this might happen. That's why we need a plan. A plan? Jenny scoffed. The plan should have been not dragging me into your mess in the first place. Peter sighed, running a hand through his hair. I made a mistake. I admit that. But right now, we need to focus on damage control. Jenny crossed her arms. her skepticism evident. "And what exactly do you propose?" Peter leaned against the counter, his voice steady and measured. "We need to do an exclusive interview. Together. Lay everything on the table. Our marriage, our motives. Spin the narrative before the media does it for us." Jenny raised an eyebrow. "Spin the narrative? You mean lie?" "No," Peter said firmly. "The truth, but on our terms. We'll talk about how we met, how we fell in love." Jenny cut him off with a laugh. "Oh, so now we're in love. That's rich, Peter." "Jenny," Peter said, his tone softening, "I know I've given you every reason not to trust me, but this isn't just about me. It's about you too. Your reputation is on the line. If we don't control the story, the world will believe you're exactly what the headlines say." Jenny hated to admit it, but he was right. Her career, her family's legacy, everything she'd worked for was now at risk because of one ill-conceived contract marriage. She exhaled sharply, her anger giving way to reluctant resolve. "Fine, but I'm setting the boundaries. If you lie about anything, I'm out." Peter nodded. "Agreed." That evening, the two of them sat on a sleek couch under the soft glow of studio lights. Across from them, the well-known journalist Clara Hayes prepared her notes. Known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense style, Clara wasn't one to let her subjects off easy. "Good evening," Clara began as the cameras rolled. "Tonight we're joined by Peter Warren Joan, CEO of Warren Enterprises, and his wife Jenny Steele. The world was taken by surprise when news of your marriage broke. Peter, let's start with you. Why did you keep your marriage a secret?" Peter's smile was practiced, but his voice carried genuine conviction. "Clara, I've always believed in separating my personal and professional lives. When Jenny and I met, it wasn't under typical circumstances. I wanted to give us the chance to build something real, away from the spotlight." Clara turned her sharp gaze to Jenny. "Jenny, some have accused you of being a gold digger, of marrying Peter for his wealth and status. What's your response to that?" Jenny met Clara's gaze without flinching. "It's easy to make assumptions about someone you've never met, but I've built my own career, my own life. I didn't need Peter's money then, and I don't need it now. What I want is mutual respect and partnership." As they left the studio, the cameras flashing around them, Jenny felt a strange sense of accomplishment. They'd managed to turn the narrative in their favor, at least for now. But as they stepped into Peter's car, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression hardening. "What is it?" Jenny asked. Peter's jaw clenched. "It's not over. Someone's digging deeper into both of our pasts, and they're not playing fair." Jenny's heart sank. "What do you mean?" Peter turned to her, his eyes filled with worry. "They're targeting you, Jenny. Whoever's behind this wants to destroy you." The car sped through the city streets, its occupants lost in tense silence. Peter's hand gripped his phone tightly, his knuckles white against the leather seat. Jenny watched him from the corner of her eye, her own unease growing with every passing second. "Peter," she finally said, her voice cutting through the heavy air. "Who's behind this? What did you see?" Peter hesitated, his lips pressed into a thin line. "It's someone who knows us, both of us. The leaks aren't random, Jenny. They're targeted. Every detail about your past, your career, even your family, it's all being dug up." Jenny's stomach churned. Why would anyone do this? What do they stand to gain? Peter exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Power, control, maybe even revenge. The word hung in the air like a dark cloud. Jenny's pulse quickened. Revenge? For what? Peter didn't answer right away. Instead, he tapped his phone, pulling up an email with a series of attachments. He handed it to Jenny. "See for yourself." Jenny's hands trembled as she scrolled through the files. They were detailed dossiers, her university records, old financial statements, even personal family photos. One file caught her attention: Warren Enterprises, marriage contract details. Her eyes widened. They know about the contract? Peter nodded grimly. Not just the contract. Look at this. He swiped to another document, revealing a blurry image of a man she didn't recognize. Balding, with a sharp nose and piercing eyes. Beneath it was a name, Randall Greaves. Who's Randall Greaves? Jenny asked. Peter's jaw tightened. He's a former board member of Warren Enterprises. He tried to stage a hostile takeover years ago. My father had him removed when his plans were exposed, and his reputation was ruined. I haven't heard from him since, until now. Jenny frowned. Why would he target me? I've never even met the man. Peter's gaze softened. Because you're connected to me, and that makes you leverage. The next morning, Jenny's world erupted into chaos. Articles appeared on every major news site detailing her supposed schemes to climb the social ladder. They claimed she'd manipulated her way into a high-profile marriage to secure wealth and influence. Anonymous sources accused her of sabotaging colleagues at Steel Media Group and fabricating parts of her resume. The attack was brutal, personal, and far-reaching. At the office, whispers followed her everywhere. Co-workers avoided her gaze, and meetings were awkwardly cut short. Even her assistant hesitated before handing her papers, as though unsure whether to stay loyal. Jenny slammed her office door shut, her breathing ragged. Her phone buzzed incessantly with calls, texts, and emails, most of them unwanted. She paced the room, her mind racing. How did it get to this point? A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Jenny, Peter's voice called from the other side. Let me in. She hesitated, then unlocked the door. Peter stepped inside, his face set with determination. I just came from a meeting with my legal team. We're going after Greaves. Jenny crossed her arms. And how exactly does that help me right now? My entire career is under attack, Peter. People are starting to believe these lies. Peter stepped closer, his voice firm. We'll prove their lies. Greaves isn't invincible. He's playing dirty, and I know how to fight back. Jenny shook her head. You don't get it. This isn't just about you or your company. My reputation, everything I've worked for, is on the line. I know, Peter said softly, and I'm not going to let him destroy you. That evening, Peter's team worked tirelessly to unravel Greaves's web of deceit. Jenny joined them, determined to defend herself. Hours of digging through leaked documents and anonymous emails led to a critical discovery. Greaves had bribed a journalist to fabricate stories about Jenny's past. We have him, Peter said, a triumphant gleam in his eyes. This is enough to discredit him. Jenny stared at the evidence, her jaw tight. It's not enough. Peter frowned. What do you mean? It's not enough to just expose him, Jenny said, her voice steely. We need to ruin him the way he's trying to ruin me. Peter hesitated, his gaze searching hers. Jenny, that's a dangerous road. Once you start fighting like him, it's hard to stop. Jenny met his eyes, fire burning in hers. Then it's a good thing I'm not afraid of a fight. As the night wore on, Jenny and Peter worked side by side, their shared determination forging an unexpected bond. But just as they pieced together their next move, Jenny's phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen displayed an unknown number. Frowning, she answered. Hello? A familiar voice, cold and calculating, sent chills down her spine. Hello, Jenny. I see you've been busy. But you're not the only one with secrets, are you? Jenny's blood ran cold. Who is this? The voice chuckled darkly. You'll find out soon enough. The line went dead, leaving Jenny and Peter staring at each other in alarm. Greaves? Peter asked. Jenny shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. This voice. It wasn't him. It was someone else, someone I thought I'd never hear from again. The morning sun streamed through Jenny's apartment window, but the warmth did little to quell the chill running down her spine. She sat at her kitchen counter, staring at her phone, the mysterious voice from the call echoing in her mind. "You're not the only one with secrets." Jenny tapped her nails against the counter, replaying the voice over and over. It had been years, but she was certain now. The silky, confident tone belonged to Victoria Kane, a name she hadn't uttered in almost a decade. Victoria had been Jenny's rival in her early career at Steel Media Group. Ambitious and cunning, Victoria had clawed her way up the corporate ladder with charm and ruthlessness. But when Victoria's unethical behavior, a scandal involving fabricated sources in a major expose, came to light, Jenny had been the one to expose her, cementing her own reputation as a rising star while toppling Victoria's career. Jenny thought she had seen the last of Victoria when the latter left the industry in disgrace. But now it seemed Victoria was back, and her call wasn't just a friendly reunion. Jenny's thoughts were interrupted by her phone buzzing. A text from Peter flashed on the screen. "Turn on channel 6, now." Her stomach dropped. Grabbing the remote, she turned on the TV just as the anchor's polished voice filled the room. "We have breaking news regarding the recent scandal surrounding Warren Enterprises and its CEO, Peter Warren Jones. New allegations have surfaced about his wife, Jenny Steele. Sources claim that during her early career at Steel Media Group, Ms. Steele fabricated stories to further her own ambitions." The screen switched to a clip of a younger Jenny, standing at a podium during a press conference years ago. The footage was edited to make her look evasive, her statements taken out of context. Jenny's heart sank as the anchor continued. While these claims remain unverified, questions about her integrity could further jeopardize Warren Enterprises' standing. Jenny grabbed her phone, dialing Peter. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded as soon as he picked up. "I was going to ask you the same thing," Peter replied, his voice tight. "We traced the source of the leak. It's Victoria Kane." Jenny's grip on the phone tightened. "Victoria, I should have known. She's the one who called me last night." "I figured," Peter said. "She's been working with Greaves. He's funding her media campaign, and she's using this to get back at you." Jenny paced the room, her fury mounting. "She's twisting everything. That clip, it's from the press conference where I exposed her lies. She's trying to rewrite history." Peter's voice softened. "Jenny, this isn't just about you anymore. She's targeting you to get to me. If we don't stop her, this will keep escalating." That afternoon, Jenny and Peter sat across from each other in his office. Spread out on the table were documents Peter's team had unearthed, emails between Victoria and Greaves, detailing their plan to dismantle Jenny and Peter's reputations. Victoria had spun the narrative to frame Jenny as unethical, a perfect complement to Greaves's attacks on Peter's leadership. Peter leaned back in his chair, his jaw tight. "Victoria's bitter. She lost everything when you exposed her, and now she's using Greaves to fund her revenge." Jenny stared at the papers, her mind racing. "This isn't just revenge. She wants to erase me. She wants the world to think she was right all along, that I'm the fraud." Peter leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. "Then we don't let her. We hit back, harder." Jenny arched a brow. "And how do you propose we do that?" Peter's lips curled into a faint smirk. "Victoria has skeletons in her closet. You exposed them once. We'll expose them again. But this time, we'll make sure she can't recover." As Peter's team dug deeper into Victoria's connections, Jenny received another call. Her breath hitched when the name appeared on the screen. Victoria Kane. Jenny hesitated, then answered. "Victoria." "Jenny," Victoria purred, her tone dripping with mock sincerity. "It's been too long. How's the view from the bottom?" Jenny clenched her jaw. "What do you want?" Victoria's laugh was soft but menacing. "Oh, I think you know. You took everything from me and now it's my turn. But I'll give you a chance to bow out gracefully. Divorce Peter. Walk away from your so-called reputation. Otherwise, I'll burn everything you love to the ground." Jenny's voice was steady, but her fury simmered just beneath the surface. "If you think I'm going to let you win, Victoria, you don't know me at all." Victoria chuckled. "We'll see about that. Tick-tock, Jenny. The clock's running out." As the call ended, Jenny turned to Peter, her determination blazing in her eyes. "I'm not running. If Victoria wants a war, she's got one." Peter smiled grimly. "Then let's make sure she regrets ever starting it." The Warren Enterprises war room buzzed with activity as Peter's legal and PR teams worked through the night. Screens flashed with news articles, social media posts, and private emails unearthed from Victoria Kane's connections. At the center of it all stood Jenny and Peter, their dynamic a blend of tension and newfound unity. Peter glanced at his watch. "We need to move fast. Victoria's attacks have shifted public perception. If we don't counter this narrative within the next 48 hours, it could stick." Jenny stood with her arms crossed, scanning the evidence on the table. Among the piles of documents was a golden ticket, financial statements showing Victoria's recent mysterious windfall. It was clear Greaves had funded her, but there was more. "This isn't just about money," Jenny said, holding up a document. "Look at this. She's been positioning herself for a comeback in the media industry. If she takes me down, she can step into my place as the next big media mogul." Peter nodded grimly. "And she'll have Greaves backing her." Jenny's lips tightened. "Not if I have anything to say about it." Peter's team outlined their strategy, a two-pronged attack. First, they would publicly release the financial evidence linking Victoria to Greaves, exposing her as a puppet in his scheme. Second, Jenny would take the spotlight, delivering a personal message to reclaim her reputation. "It's risky," Peter said as the team dispersed to execute their parts of the plan. "Victoria won't go down without a fight." Jenny's eyes blazed with determination. "Neither will I." Peter studied her for a moment, his voice softening. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for." Jenny glanced at him, momentarily caught off guard by the sincerity in his tone. "You're not so bad yourself, for someone who lied about being a broke construction worker." Peter smirked. "Touché." The next morning, Jenny stood in front of the cameras in a stunning yet understated black suit. The press conference was packed, reporters clamoring for answers as the world waited to hear her side of the story. Jenny stepped to the podium, her voice steady and clear. "Good morning. For the past several days, my character and career have been under attack. I've been accused of fabricating stories, sabotaging colleagues, and manipulating my way into success. None of that is true." She held up a folder of documents. "What is true is that these baseless allegations have been orchestrated by Victoria Kane, a disgraced former journalist with a history of unethical behavior, and Randall Greaves, a man known for his vendettas. Here is the evidence linking them both to this smear campaign." Jenny paused, letting the room absorb her words. "I will not be intimidated, and I will not be silenced. My integrity speaks for itself, and I stand by the work I've done to earn my place in this industry." The room erupted into questions, but Jenny held her ground. She had turned the narrative on its head, forcing the focus onto Victoria and Greaves. Meanwhile, Victoria watched the press conference unfold from her lavish apartment, her knuckles white as she gripped her glass of wine. The tide was turning, and she knew it. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. When she opened it, Greaves stood there, his expression dark. "You said you had this under control," he snapped. "I do," Victoria said, though her confidence was slipping. "Jenny might have scored a point, but I'm not done. I have one more card to play. Greaves frowned. What card? Victoria's smile returned, cold and calculating. Something she buried years ago. If the world knew the real Jenny Steele, her precious integrity wouldn't stand a chance. What would you do if the person you married told her, "We'll handle this. Whatever it is, you're not facing it alone"? Jenny met his gaze, her anger overtaking her fear. Then let's finish this once and for all. Jenny sat frozen in Peter's office, the harsh glow of the tablet screen illuminating her face. The headline screamed accusations, and her heart pounded with the weight of its implications. Peter leaned over her shoulder, reading the article aloud. Jenny Steele's hidden past, the truth about her family scandal. The article painted a damning picture, claiming that Jenny's rise to success was built on the ruins of a controversial family business scandal. It alleged that her father, the late Richard Steele, had been involved in fraudulent dealings before his untimely death, dealings that Jenny had supposedly covered up to preserve her name and career. "This is a lie," Jenny said, her voice shaking with equal parts rage and despair. "My father was never involved in fraud. He was framed. But no one believed me back then. I thought this was buried." Peter placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. Victoria must have found something, real or fabricated, and twisted it to suit her narrative. Jenny shook her head. "She's exploiting the worst time of my life. My father was ruined, my family was destroyed, and I spent years rebuilding everything. I won't let her use this to tear me down." The next morning, Jenny and Peter gathered their team to devise a counterstrike. The stakes had never been higher. Victoria's article had gone viral, dominating news cycles and drawing public speculation about Jenny's integrity. The comments were a mix of outrage and support, but the damage was undeniable. Peter's legal advisor spoke first. "The article is borderline defamatory, but Victoria has been careful. She hasn't stated outright lies, just insinuations. Filing a lawsuit could take months and the public backlash would only grow." Jenny leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "Then we don't wait for a courtroom. We fight this now." Peter nodded. "We need to flip this narrative. If your father was framed, we prove it. We find the people involved and expose the truth." Jenny hesitated, her voice quieter now. "That's easier said than done. The people who framed him, they were powerful. I don't even know where to start." Peter's lips curled into a determined smile. "Fortunately, I have resources, and I don't give up easily." Peter's investigators began unearthing old records, testimonies, and documents related to the Steele family scandal. Meanwhile, Jenny worked tirelessly to craft a public response, refusing to let Victoria control the narrative. That evening, Jenny sat in front of the cameras once more. Her voice was steady, her resolve unshakable as she addressed the nation. "Today, I want to speak not just as a businesswoman, but as a daughter. For years, my family has lived under the shadow of a lie. My father, Richard Steele, was accused of crimes he didn't commit, and those false accusations destroyed him. Now, thanks to the support of my husband and the incredible people working with us, we've uncovered evidence that proves he was framed." Jenny held up the document for the cameras. "This isn't just about clearing my family's name. It's about standing up to people who think they can manipulate the truth for their own gain. People like Victoria Kane." Her gaze hardened. "Victoria, I don't know what you thought you'd gain by dragging my father's name through the mud again, but I won't let you win. I've fought too hard and come too far to back down now." The next day, the headlines flipped. Reports of the newly discovered evidence went viral, overshadowing Victoria's smear campaign. News outlets dissected her motivations, questioning her credibility and her alliance with Randall Greaves. Public support shifted rapidly in Jenny's favor, and Victoria found herself cornered. Peter's team went further, uncovering additional scandals tied to Victoria's finances, including fraudulent dealings with Greaves. The revelations were enough to destroy what little reputation she had left. Victoria issued a weak statement denying the allegations, but it was too late. Her influence had crumbled, and she disappeared from the public eye. As the dust settled, Jenny and Peter stood together in the penthouse overlooking the city. The skyline glittered, like a promise of brighter days ahead. "You did it," Peter said, a rare softness in his voice. "You cleared your father's name, and you proved to everyone that you're stronger than they ever gave you credit for." Jenny turned to him, a small smile playing on her lips. "We did it. I couldn't have done this without you." Peter's eyes lingered on hers, an unspoken question passing between them. "So, what now?" Jenny laughed softly, a sound of relief and hope. "Now? We keep fighting, together." But even as they allowed themselves a moment of peace, Peter's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. "What is it?" Jenny asked, her smile fading. Peter hesitated, then showed her the message. "You may have won this battle, but the war isn't over. RG." Jenny's heart sank. "Greaves." Peter's jaw clenched. "He's not done, and neither are we." Thank you for watching and joining us on this incredible journey. Be sure to explore more of our stories on the channel or click on the next video YouTube recommends. If this story touched your heart, please like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more captivating African tales. Don't forget to tap the notification bell to stay connected to the wisdom and beauty of these stories. Until next time, stay blessed and keep shining.